This is the rig that I'm using on this particular venue. It's a long range rig, but it's also to suit a very soft bottom. Much longer hook length than you've probably seen me use in the past. Certainly in the underwater films, I was an advocate of very short hook lengths. In that situation, the bottom was very hard, the les wasn't penetrating at all, and the fish were feeding in a very tight area, so you needed a short hook length to catch them. I've tried really short hook lengths on this venue out in the soft bottom out there, and they didn't work for me at all, and I wasted 3 or 4 days of a session a couple of years ago. I lengthened the hook length and then started to catch fish. It's a completely new hook link material as well, the hybrid soft, done for exactly this kind of situation where it is soft on the bottom. You remember I'm a real fan of the real stiff hook links, but that's only when the bottom's very hard. When you're doing the underwater filming, we're always fishing on gravel, so we're using a much stiffer hook link. In this situation, if the lead penetrates into the bottom at all and you've got a stiff hook link on, that hook link can be sticking bolt upright out the bottom, and even with a bottom bait, it can be hanging off the end of the hook link, not even touching the lake bed. And of course then you're not going to get a take. So if we have a look at the hooking arrangement in a little bit more detail there, I've got a size 6 wide gate B on because there's a barbless rule on this particular venue, and because the wide gate B has got a curved in point, it stays in really well, and I've dropped very few fish over the last few years from all of these lakes because of that pattern of hook. Now I've tied it on with my version of a whipping knot that I got taught years ago. It's never let me down, so I'll carry on doing it. Basically you form a big loop underneath the hook, and then with that loop you wrap around the hook, going up the hook once, and then carry on going down the hook 4 or 5 times, and then your little tag end at the end of the hook just pulls down and tightens the knot up. Make sure you wet it before you tighten it down fully, and then pull it really tight so it's right next to the eye of the hook, and that's absolutely perfect. That's not going to let you down at all. If you want to supplement that with the knotless knot, that's absolutely fine. That does exactly the same job. And then onto that, I've threaded the line through the eye of the hook going towards the point, and that's very important that the line goes through the eye, always towards the point. That's going to cause the hook to flip over and catch hold. And then after that, I've put on a little tiny bit of our Safe Zone shrink tube. That's the green version. That's a nice dark colour that suits the lake bed out there. That shrunk down really small there, and what I've done to get it onto the eye of the hook, I've actually wet it, so when I push it onto the eye of the hook, that saliva just acts as a lubricant and helps it to go on there, so I can get the tiniest bit of shrink tube onto the eye of the hook so it looks really nice and neat. And when I've shrunk that down, you can see there I've just put the shrink tube in just a little tiny bit. I haven't curved it right in like I used to, and the reason for that is it actually makes the hook turn over and catch hold more aggressively if it is just the same angle as the eye of the hook. So that's another good little tip that you can put into your own fishing. The ring that I've tied on there, that's just slid onto the hook, and just a simple overhand knot through the ring, back through the loop you've just created, and back through the loop you create again, and pull it tight, and that just secures that on there. And the reason that ring is there, it's not for blowback. A lot of people say, oh yeah, that ring blows back out the way when the fish tries to eject the bait and the hook stays in their mouth. Well, I've never seen that happen in the underwater filming. Their mouths are huge, and when they blow the bait out, the whole lot just comes out of it. What it's there for is coming off the hook at that point, having a bottom bait as well makes the point of the hook heavy, and it makes it, if I pull that on my hand, see straight away that's trying to turn into my hand there, because the weight of the bottom bait is making the point of the hook heavy. And then once the hook has caught hold as well, that ring can then slide back out the way and allow the hook to penetrate further and further. So it's not for anti-ejection, it's not for blowback or anything else, it's to get that hook to turn quickly. And moving down the hook link, I've got a strip back section by the hook, just to allow the hook to lift up into the fish's mouth. The hook link's so soft anyway, you don't need to have much strip back, but it just helps it to lift up and also to turn and catch hold. And I've just stripped that back with a stripper tool before I tied the knot, just to get it cut nice and clean, doesn't damage the braid at all. Very useful thing to have in your tackle box. And then looking down the hook link there, you see I've got a great big blob of rig putty in the middle of the hook link. I always use that because you never know what the contours are like out on the bottom of the lake bed, and if there's a stick or something coming out the bottom and the hook link's laying over it, that just helps to pin the bit near the hook down on the bottom, because if it's on the bottom it's much harder for the fish to see. So very important to always have a bit of putty on your hook link. These hook links sink on their own, so if you didn't put the putty on there it would sink, but that's just an extra guarantee just to pin everything down. And then at the other end there, I've just tied a Palomar knot onto a link loop. That's my favoured way of tying the hook link. It's not a good material to tie overhand loops in. It's not as strong as it would be if you tied that. That's going to break at probably 22 pounds. We rate this at 20 pounds breaking strain. A loop knot might go at 15 pounds. So I always recommend you tie a knot to a link loop instead of tying just a figure of 8 overhand loop or something like that. Any knot that you like tying in a mono, you can tie in this soft material. So sometimes I tie a 3 or 4 turn blood knot in it, and that works perfectly. Damien likes a grinner knot. You know, anything that you prefer will work in this material. And then if we go down to the actual lead system itself, you can see on there, there's no swivel on this hook link at all. Different from most other hook links. I've cut the swivel off the end of the safe zone leader, and what you've got there is a quick link attached to the end of the safe zone leader, and then the link loop is just attached onto that. And I don't know if you can see there, but I've squeezed the lead clip so it's oval, so that link loop just pulls in there under the tiniest amount of tension. There's no way that the hook link can get back off, because the little hook in the quick link there is just inside the lead clip, so there's no way it can come back off on the cast. Very easy to take your hook links on and off, and because I'm using PVA sticks, that helps as well. A lead clip system that's not working as it was designed to. This is working as a running rig, so the lead's never going to come off this one. And the reason I can use it on these kind of venues is there's no weed, there's no snags, there's nothing for that lead to get caught up in. And I think having this as a running rig is a massive advantage on these sort of pressured waters, because as soon as the fish picks the bait up, they shake their head to try and get rid of the hook. Now as they're doing that, a running rig will pull out of there, and that will just slide down the lead system. So it's just sliding down the leader further and further away from the fish. So as soon as they're doing all this with their head trying to get rid of it, rather than the lead being underneath their chin and just swinging about backwards and forwards, it's actually sliding away from them. There's nothing they can do to get rid of the hook. And that's when you get really fast takes, and you know you've caught the fish unawares when it absolutely steams off. A lot of people on here are getting funny bites on normal lead clip semi-fixed systems. They're getting a few bleeps, and sometimes they're hitting it and the fish is on. Sometimes they get the bleeps, they ignore it, and then the fish has got away. So it's a real good system to use when there's no weed, no snags, you're casting at range. It's still very good for anti-tangle, but when that fish picks it up, it's going to really fool them. And the last thing I want to show you to do with this is the spares that I've got. Right, now look at this little fella. This is my rig safe. Look at that. They are all spares. Yeah, I don't sit at home tying rigs in front of the telly or anything else. All these are tied while I'm actually fishing. So once I've decided what I'm going to use and I've got the rigs out in the lake, I'll tie 3 or 4 more, and I'll leave them in this or on the top of my tackle box ready to go. So if I get a bite, I've got another rig tied instantly. Because when you're fishing for 50, 60 pounders, you know, you do not want that fish to drop off, and the easiest way for that to happen is to have a blunt hook on. So when I'm fishing for fish of this size, I'll always change the hook after every fish, so I've always got loads of spares tied. And they're the sort of things people always ask, what makes a really good angler a really good angler? And it's effort that goes into their fishing. And if you do things like that, I'm sure it'll get you more takes. So on soft bottoms, use a soft hook link, use the lead system running rather than semi-fixed, and I definitely think you'll get a lot more bites on it.